Welcome to Schmedium Format, the bi-monthly video series that encourages you to go into massive amounts of debt in order to partake in our favorite hobby, film photography. I am joined today by Steven Schultz, and if you look up here, we have massive amounts of film in order to firmly support the idea that every film photographer is pretentious, along with everything else in the background to further support that idea. I'm Braxton Wallace with the prepubescent facial hair, and we're going to talk about why you should shoot film in 2022. Steven, why should you shoot film in 2022?
Because NFTs are fake, and this is something that really you can hold and invest in.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like 4 hours last night screenshotting NFTs. I don't get the big deal. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say I have drank massive amounts of caffeine today, so I apologize in advance to my mother for what I'm about to say. Bang, if you would like to sponsor, please do.
Only him, though. The smell of that is already getting to me.
Don't listen to him, Bang. Please sponsor me. Okay, now before we get started with this episode of Schmedium Format, I want to give just like a very brief explanation of what this is supposed to be. Schmedium Format was just a really dumb excuse for me to talk to people about film. I enjoy these conversations. I enjoy talking with my friends and people that I respect in the film community about film, because that's my only purpose in life. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I'm not really expecting anything really to come out of this other than just to have conversations with people. If you guys would like this to be like a full-time podcast or want to see these episodes more, I'm planning on doing these like twice a month or so. It's all really depending up to you guys of what you guys want to see. If y'all don't care about anything we talk about, then let me know. It's completely up to you guys. I just wanted an excuse to have conversations about film with my friends. So excuse us if we get off on tangents or if we're not making any sense at all. Again, this is just supposed to be a very relaxed conversation. So enjoy this episode of Schmedium Format, and I will see you guys later. So, as we all know, in 2022, Kodak decided to screw all of us and raise their prices through the roof.
Yep.
And of course, you also have Fuji, who just hates all of us and discontinues every film ever made.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, as a film photographer, lots of people ask me, like, they want to get into it, but they don't think it's really necessary. They don't think that it's going to provide what it could if it was a lot cheaper, if that makes sense. It's not very accessible as it used to be, and because it's not as accessible, people don't seem as inclined to give it a try and explore this other side of photography that most people don't ever get to experience. So in today's episode of Schmedium Format, I want to just kind of explore why you should actually shoot film in 2022. This is going to be a very, I'm probably not going to edit this at all. Just a very uncut, raw conversation with a good friend of mine who almost quit shooting film.
I did.
Recently. You got really close to quitting film entirely.
Only a couple months ago.
Yeah. Can you give us some context?
It's funny. I think the first reason was because I didn't really, care enough to keep putting money into it when we knew prices were already going to increase. It was only going to become a more expensive hobby. It's not something that I get paid for yet, client work wise.
Yeah.
I sell film prints and make money in that way, but it's not, as far as like a business is concerned, operating as a business, it's not the most or at all profitable thing to do. But that aside, I think the conversation that we had where I was really close to just being like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot whatever I have left and then just kind of like move on from it. That was right before we went to New York City for the marathon. And that trip, honestly, I think was what flipped the switch for me, because I think in a lot of ways, I just hadn't really gotten to shoot with friends that much. And I hadn't found subject matter that was that interesting to me. I was shooting it more as I have a camera that I love, so I'll use it. But
by the way, if you didn't know, this is Steven's Mamiya 645 AFD. It is very pretty.
Yes, love this camera. I just made a whole video review about it. It's amazing.
It'll be up here somewhere.
I've had it for a year now, and that's what the whole review and video talks about. But I've come to fall in love with this camera, especially in the past like 3 months. But it took a year to get there. But honestly, like the truth of it is, film is expensive, right? That's just what it comes down to. It's very expensive to do. And to shoot and to enjoy, and when every photo has a dollar amount associated with it and time associated with it, that can be a deterrent, and that's just a real thing. And I think that's especially true for newcomers into film. Yeah. And it's disappointing because film is a really joyful thing, and I am obsessed with it now, and I'm bummed for the people that can't really
because it's such a crime now, because like, you know, even just like a few years ago, you'd be like, oh, you just go buy a pack of film. And like, it's also very interesting with film is that if film is very finicky when it comes to exposure, or at least your cheaper films are. So you always want to give newbies the best experience possible. So I would always tell new film shooters, go buy a pack of Portra, because Portra is so much more flexible in terms of exposure than say like Ultramax or something. And so it's so discouraging now that you can't just tell someone, hey, go buy a pack of Portra and just give it a try, because now no one wants to pay $75 just to give something
like
a try.
A box of film.
One box of film. Like one box of 35mm Portra is like $75 now, which is
crazy.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I actually want to add something also to what I just said on the financial component. I was using this camera actively throughout 2021 and got to a point where I accumulated, I think, 21 or 22 rolls of 120 film to develop. And I was shooting it frequently, and I kept saying, oh, I'm just going to wait to send a bulk order to the lab. Oh, 3 more rolls came in. Okay, I'm going to wait until I have next week's shoot done also, and then I'll just send like a bigger order into the lab. And I just got to a point where I was like, I have so many rolls of film, and it's expensive to get it developed and scanned.
Yes.
The scanning is the real...
Yeah, the scanning's
but
usually...
it's expensive, and it takes a lot of time.
Especially when you're shooting medium format, and you tend to want higher resolution scans, or like even like TIFFs, so you can edit them yourself.
And in the past, I've been honestly sometimes disappointed with the scans that I've gotten. Development has always been fine.
So that's why it's always safe to go ahead and get TIFF scans. Yeah. So you can tweak them yourself.
So with that in mind, that was another deterrent for me. I'm just like, it's going to be so much money to send all of this out and then get all of it back, and I'm probably not going to love it. And then I moved to Chicago, and I'm here with you guys, and now we can develop and scan ourselves, which is a lot more cost effective, honestly more time effective also, and it just made the whole world of film a lot more accessible, I think. Like that really was a breakthrough moment for me, realizing like, okay, it can be done much cheaper, and I can get my photos faster, and I have more control over the end result, because we use this little scanning setup right here, and Negative Lab Pro to convert everything. So suddenly film just became honestly cheaper for sure. Us.
Yeah, and anyone who doesn't self-develop and self-scan, I highly encourage that you do. It makes, first off, it's so much cheaper. Like self-developing ends up costing like, like a pack of chemicals is like $28, and then, you know,
which is like 2 to 3 rolls of film if you send it to a lab.
Yes.
If you get TIFF scans, probably not.
Even more.
Yeah.
Which is the absurd thing is that like a pack of Portra costs $75, and then you send all 5 rolls to get developed, and you're like $120 in for some photos, you know, which is bonkers.
And you may not like how it turned out.
Exactly.
That's
so even if like developing is a little out of your reach, I know some people get nervous with like handling chemicals and things like that. Even just like self-scanning, the investment up front, like this thing that we got from
Negative Supply.
Negative Supply. Now, thank God that we have an actual YouTuber amongst our studio, Eric Floberg. We got all of this stuff for free. But even if it's on the pricier side, it's such an investment, and it pays for itself. Like, rapidly, especially if you're shooting large amounts of film.
Yes.
With that being said, we probably need to circle back to why you should actually shoot film.
Yeah. So I'll put a bow on that the first question that you asked. Like really the biggest reason that I was not interested in continuing to shoot film, cost and the time and the effort that just was associated with put into
there's just like so many hoops that you have to jump through just for, you know,
just to maybe be disappointed in the end.
Because like it would be so disheartening. Say you do spend the $75 on a pack of Portra, you know, you shoot all of these photos, You send it to the lab. One roll comes out blank. You screw up exposure on a few frames. The scans are subpar at best, and you're like $130 deep into something that your friends would say it was fun. You know, everyone's like, shoot film, they said. It will be fun, they said. And then some of your most precious memories are blank.
Or honestly, it gets lost in transit.
Yeah,
somewhere.
or it gets.
That was the other thing.
You know, our packaging gods, UPS or USPS, lose all of your film.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare. And that's actually why I ultimately, with that big bulk order, you've been very graciously developing a lot of the film that I've been shooting since I've got to Chicago. But that huge 20 plus order of film, I actually just brought that to a local lab in Chicago to just get all of it developed. And then I brought it back and scanned everything myself here, which was not that it was $5 a roll to get all of that developed.
That's so cheap,
and
especially local labs.
They did it in one day. I didn't have to ship it anywhere. I didn't have to pay for the shipping. Didn't have to worry about it getting lost. It was so much simpler. So if you do scan or develop through a lab, I would try to go local first, just for that extra peace of mind.
Yeah, and you'll get it a lot quicker too.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, honestly, for me at least, the reason why I began to shoot film, I have been a photographer for now 5-6 years. Also, I do video as well. I started shooting film because once something becomes your job, it's nowhere near as fun as it was. Also, being a former college athlete, the sport that I played, I'm not going to say my sport because that's such like a... I already shoot film, so I'm already...
It was curling.
I was a college tennis player, and I spent years of my life playing tennis, and it was so much fun traveling to different tournaments and things like that. And then you get to college, and it becomes your job, and you have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and it's not nearly as fun as it was. And so that's the same thing with like digital photography, because nowadays the standard is digital photography. And I lost my train of thought. I'll edit this out.
No, that's okay. We can keep going with it. I think I know the thought that you're kind of going with because I'm on the same way.
Yeah, it's just like it gets so monotonous. It's just not as fun as you used to, especially also like digital photography. Now, this is my personal opinion, but I think because I have a theory that the more options you have, the less creative you can be. Digital photography just lets you take any random photo, and in post, you can make it something completely different.
It's another reason why we primarily shoot prime lenses too.
Yes, especially it's like coming from a wedding background, we always shot prime lenses. It made you move your feet, made you become more creative than just having one lens that did everything for you. So I shot film just to explore a different side of photography, just to kind of refine my passion within this art form.
And that's a good place to do it too, because coming from wedding backgrounds, specifically like we're talking about, we churn out hundreds of thousands of images.
Yes.
We take that many, we probably deliver close in like, I don't know, depending on how high volume you deliver, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 images are delivered. That is so many photos.
That's also like per year, not per wedding.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
80,000 photos a wedding.
Annually, yeah. You are taking and delivering so many images, and it's funny. That's kind of like when I first got this camera. I was actually in New York when it got delivered. I was with my family. My dad saw it. He was like, "Oh, cool! What camera is that?" It's actually a medium format film camera. He's like, "Oh, you got a film camera?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Is film cool now?" I'm like, "Well, I'm really interested in diving into medium format, especially. But yeah, film is really interesting." And it was funny to hear that perspective because to our parents, where film was the norm, it is funny for it to be coming back in because to them, their perspective is that, well, digital is superior because it's easier and it's you can see your photos quickly and you can have them instantly and there's no risk of them being lost, right? But for us, we grew up with digital and we're used to having high volume.
Yeah.
And for us, this is a breath of fresh air because suddenly we can shoot slower on digital, but our jobs necessitate that we do high volume.
Yeah, we shoot at a very high pace.
So this slows us down. It gives us a chance to find joy in it again and to like reconnect with the hobby that
because photography is one of the few art forms. If you don't mind me being pretentious for a second and calling photography an art form, it's one of the few art forms that doesn't have many avenues to explore. You know, if you just take painting, for example, painting, you have acrylic, you have oil painting, you have even finger painting. Well, I mean, like, you can go nuts with the different brushes and tools in order to create what you want to create. Whereas with photography, all digital cameras do the same thing. Now, you can argue like, oh, Fujifilm's color science is better or Canon's is better. It's all kind of baloney to me, because at the end of the day, you're shooting a RAW file, and you can make a RAW file literally anything. You know, like, no matter what people say, you can make any camera look good, and you can make any RAW file look good. So we just don't have that many avenues to explore, because at the end of the day, we're all shooting on a digital camera, and we're all having the same end product, which is a RAW file. So film is like our only avenue really to explore. It's our only other option to create with. We don't have anything else to create with other than film cameras. And I think that's really the biggest argument for shooting film, is that I think in order to be successful in any art medium form, you need to explore different avenues within that medium. You need to try all different aspects. I can't think of the actor off the top of my head.
Andrew Garfield.
Probably. They were asked, how do you stay inspired and motivated, and how do you keep doing this over and over and over? And they go, well, I do all the genres. I'm forgetting the quote off the top of his head, but long story short, he was like, I try not to stay in one genre too long. I'm constantly trying to reinvent myself and reinvent the characters that I can portray, you know, doing comedy, doing horror, doing drama, all of these different genres within cinema. He was constantly trying to reinvent himself and explore all avenues within his craft. And for us photographers, film is about that only avenue that we have. I mean, I guess we have drone stuff, but that's still...
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a digital sensor. So
Yeah. There's different perspectives you could have. You
could
fly with a camera, sure.
But, but that was something that was so refreshing to me with film photography, that it was just something completely different than what we're used to. Film is just a complete different experience than digital. Now, cameras like the AFD give you a closer experience to digital, just because of it's so feature packed and it's a lot more familiar, which he actually talks about in his video. That it's very reminiscent of a digital camera,
and all of that reminiscence.
My movie service isn't available right now.
Siri decided that she wanted to join in on the conversation. Siri, hey Siri, should you shoot film in 2022?
The worst AI assistant.
I found some web results. I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
Never mind. That's so funny.
Alexa would have rattled off an answer.
Yeah, Alexa would have gave us an answer all day. What's up with that, Apple? Come on now. I forgot where we were.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the AFD and how feature packed it is. Yeah. The reminiscence. It is very much looks like a DSLR. It is all of the features really just allow this camera to disappear for me. That's why I like it so much. That's why I talk about in the video is like, it's a very modern film camera for sure. Like there's no doubt about that. But for me, that's awesome because it allows me to just make images on film without having to really second guess myself at all. And I really appreciate that because I like shooting film because I love the way that film looks. And I honestly just want there to be as few barriers between me and shooting it as possible because I have a lot of ideas and visions in my head that I want to get out into the world. And so this is the tool that has the least amount of barriers between me and that image. And
I think that's another beautiful thing about film photography is that it allows everyone to create their own unique experience with it. You know, for you, for example, we're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the experience with it. You like as few barriers as possible between you and the end result, whereas I'm more in love with the process of film than the actual results. I'm one of the few film photographers that I know that most of the time I can shoot whatever on film and then let the roll sit for weeks because I don't care about the end result as much as I do the process. I just enjoy the analog process of film. I enjoy everything from like actually loading my camera to, because I also self-develop and self-scan. I enjoy that process so much. I don't know, it's just very therapeutic for me. And I think that's just so, I guess that's like the beautiful thing about film is that not only does it just give you a breath of fresh air from what you're used to, it also just allows you to create your own experience, and you can like take it so deep. Because like now I'm into darkroom printing and exploring that whole world of the analog process. Or you can take it a much simpler route and care more about the end result and care about the look of film and what that gives you.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I was thinking about this earlier when I'd mentioned like I was shooting this throughout 2021, and it's funny, it just like occurred to me that I shot it for 9 months, 10 months even. I think 10 months, from like January to October, shot those 20 some odd rolls, and I didn't see any of the images the entire time. But the entire time I was like, I can't wait until I can.
Yeah.
And then once I scanned everything and actually saw everything converting before my eyes, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. Like that was the spark for me. That was like, I need to use this as much as I possibly can.
I think digital allows us to have almost instantaneous gratification of what we're creating.
Literally instantaneous gratification.
Because like not only can you just like look at it behind the screen, but then like you can just go to your computer and dump the SD card.
You can airdrop it to your phone if you want.
Yeah,
or whatever it is. Like wirelessly transfer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
That's another thing about film is that even if you self-develop, I still have to wait to see the images. You still have to at least have a little bit of patience in order to see your results. And there's just something about having to wait for your end result it's just so much more gratifying and rewarding. There's just something about it, like when you have to wait and then you go through the process of developing, or you send it to a lab or whatever, and then you're sitting there waiting for that email to get your scans back. That feeling is just something that digital can't really recreate.
Yep. And I think in a world of instant feedback, just across the board, not even photography specific, just instant feedback all the time, it is nice to have something that can sit and wait for a little bit. And then I almost think removing yourself from the moment that you press the shutter to the moment you see the image, you appreciate it a little more, and you're less quick to judge it and almost appreciate it more, in a weird way.
Of course.
And you're not fussing around with presets and tone curves and all this stuff. Like you convert it in Negative Lab, and I mean, it's so good now that most stuff that I'm doing is just one click. So I'm just like, great, I don't have to have any more decisions. Talking about like barriers and stuff, I can just do it. And more often than not, there's not even barriers in post-production too. It's just like, I really like the way that turned out because I know I like that film stock, and that's it. And
then another reason why I began shooting film is that for years, I really struggled trying to find my editing style. Every digital photographer has like an editing style and the way they prefer images to look. And it just seemed, especially in my era, not so much Steven's, even though we're not that far apart in terms of age, you still grow up in a little bit different environment. Whereas with me, now this might be a little bit, you might be the same boat as me, where in terms of, we grew up in the YouTube era, and there were so many creators on YouTube, and there were so many different, even like Instagram and things like that. You have access to all of these different photographers, and they all do things differently. Like, I grew up in the era where like I can see Samuel Elkins photos, Peter McKinnon's photos, Ansel Adams photos, and then like Willem Verbeek's photos, all within, I can just like instantaneously access them, and they all shoot photos differently. Some of those are digital, some of those are film. They all look different. And again, I'm losing my train of thought. Wow, I can't talk today. There's no clear-cut way, especially with digital photography, there's no clear-cut way to shoot and edit your final result. And when you have so many different people to take inspiration from, it can get so confusing and discouraging, because there's so many different ways you can take your photo, and there, especially for someone like me who really needs someone to be like, this is the correct way to do it. Like when I was getting my start in wedding photography and I was trying to do all of these really funky edits and stuff, and then my good friend Eric Floberg, he was like, dude, these photos are going to be family heirlooms forever. You have to make these edits timeless. You have to make these edits look good 30 years from now, just not today. And so when he told me that, I was like, sick. Someone finally told me what my photos should look like. With film, you're really restricted to the film stock that you're shooting. Of course, you have a little bit of variety in choosing your film stock, what your final image will look like. That's getting harder and harder these days. Thank you, Fujifilm. But it almost constricts you into a sense that not only do you get to pick your stock for your shoot, but you also kind of have to plan your shooting around what film stock you choose as well. And you're kind of constricted in that sense. So long-winded answer, going back to what I was saying, one of the reasons why I started shooting film was that I just wanted something or someone to tell me what the final result should look like. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about film, is that you kind of already have this preset look of an image. With portrait, you're going to get some warm, fairly muted tones, or like with Ektar, you're going to get very saturated tones. You're going to get very saturated reds.
You mean Nektar, right?
Nektar. Yeah, sorry. Trademark, patent pending.
Thank you. The t-shirts are dropping soon.
So that's, but also something that makes film so interesting. Not only do you have kind of a preset look, not digital preset, but a look that's going to come out of camera, due to the chemical nature of film, your results can always vary. Even though Portra is known for warm, fairly muted tones, you can shoot Portra in certain conditions and it'll look completely different.
Or you can push it a stop.
Yeah, or you can push it a stop. You can push it 2 stops. You can pull it a stop. Just the nature of being able to customize a preset look is something that's so interesting. With digital, we just have all the tools at the beginning to create an end result, whereas with film, we have an end result, but we can customize that end result. It's something that's just a lot more fascinating and fun to me.
Yep.
I hope any of that made sense. I had a lot of caffeine, so I'm kind of rambling.
No, but honestly, distilling that down to kind of what I had said earlier. Also, it's just it's a matter of having less information overload, less decisions, less choices. Yeah.
Who's the guy that has the theory of choice? Do you know what I'm talking about? I think Eric, you talked about it. If y'all didn't know, Eric Floberg's behind the camera. I think me and you talked about the guy who was the paradox of choice or something like that.
Danny Gebert's made a video about it.
Yeah.
Oh.
The thumbnail was Netflix and having too many choices.
Yeah, Danny Gebert's made a video about it.
Yeah.
Just when we're constantly in an environment where we are always faced with decisions, it can almost inhibit us from...
that's why decision paralysis is a thing. It can ruin creativity also within the context of creativity and photography. It can absolutely prevent you from making the stuff that you want to make because there's too many options. There's too many presets that you bought, and there's so many options of colors and looks, and do I want to do a dark and moody or a light and airy or whatever it is? What kind of, do I want a Cinestill emulation? That choice will keep you from making any progress. Honestly, it's too much to handle. And like you said earlier, with raw files, you can make them whatever you want to be. Maybe it's better sometimes to just have to commit to something and then shoot for that look, for 100 speed film or 800 or black and white only. You can't just convert it to black and white. There's things that you can do with film that actually, I think, enhance the post-production process by really removing any kind of post-production process.
The way I look at it, and this is such a stupid analogy, but the video game Grand Theft Auto,
excellent.
The reason why GTA 5 has lasted as long as it has, because it's a limited game. GTA 5 came out when I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Which is wild. It's been
Wait,
around for that long.
GTA 5 came out when you were in 8th?
You
were in 8th grade?
GTA 5 came out when I was in 8th grade. So that'll tell you how
There
old
is a
I
bigger
am.
age gap between us than I thought there was. That's wild.
It came out in what, like 2014? 2013?
I don't know, but wow. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
I think it was like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
But that game is still so much fun because since you're so limited in what you can do in the game, I think that's what makes it fun, is that you have to get so creative with doing different stuff to make yourself entertained, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when people come out with like mods and things like that.
Oh, yeah. It's a big old sandbox.
Yeah. It's just, even though you are limited by the game, the restrictiveness of the game forces you to be more creative within it.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
That was so stupid, but that's been going through my head this entire time we've been talking.
Yeah. Like the missions in that game are linear, and you
yeah.
follow step by step. But then when you're not in the mission, it's like, all right,
Hey.
let's drive to the top of that mountain and just like watch the sunset, and then you blow up the car and parachute off the side. Like, why not?
Yep. So how long have we been talking?
I don't know. We should talk about video games more often, though.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
How long have we been talking, Eric?
Wow, that's such a nice mustache.
It is a nice mustache.
It really is.
It's been a
Cool.
while. You think
Nice.
like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 maybe.
30?
Oh,
wow.
nice. Great. Hey,
Great.
Good podcasting.
Sick.
That's
Good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Whatever this is. I don't really know what medium format is going to be. Hopefully that I'm planning on this being kind of like a bi-monthly series, just twice a month, sit down with someone, maybe even do some solo episodes, and just talk about film. I really enjoy this style of video just because it's very casual, it's very uncut, and just get to talk about the hobby that we all love. Sorry if you shoot film full time, it's not a hobby to you. I'm validating your feelings. I hope this conversation was a little insightful. I really hope that you continue to shoot film in 2022 or pick up film, try it out. I promise you, if you actually give it an honest chance, you'll love it. Even though it's really expensive, we do have cheaper film stocks too. You can still find Superior 400 for like $20 for 3.
If you do decide to shoot film or try it out for the first time in 2022, get a cheap film stock and don't go out and buy a Contax T2 or a camera that you see other people buy online. Like, ask your parents if they have old film cameras. Ask your friends if they have one.
You can find
around.
film cameras
Go to a
for so
thrift
cheap.
store. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, make it as cheap and inexpensive as possible when you're trying it out, because it's not worth investing all of that money if you run one roll through the camera and then you're like, I'm good. Like, just make it financially accessible in the beginning.
Yeah, to add to that really quickly, one of the things that don't translate from digital to film is that with digital, the body itself matters a good bit, whereas with film, the body doesn't matter at all.
Not as much.
Not
lenses.
nearly as much. The lenses matter.
Yeah.
Because like within itself, if you take the lens off this camera, all this is a light sealed box that keeps your film from getting exposed.
It's just a lens holder.
It's just a lens holder, honestly. Now, of course, different film bodies give you different experiences, but at the end of the day, this is just a light sealed box. So get the cheapest film camera that you can. You can find AE1s for $25 sometimes.
Yeah,
at
you
thrift stores.
can. Yep.
And just go from there.
Yeah.
You
But,
know,
like, just know it doesn't, like, the film may be more expensive now, but the cameras do not have to be, and you can still get really, really beautiful images out of cheap cameras. So don't let the cost of the camera inhibit you.
I'll probably make a separate video about this, but I think, or at least my opinion is, the raising of film prices are actually a very good thing. Long story short, the raising of film prices mean that more and more people are shooting film and they're having to meet demand.
Yeah.
And by meeting demand, they have to increase production, which of course increase costs, which ups the price. So I think it's a good thing. I'll make a different video about it. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If y'all want to see Steven again on Medium Format, leave a comment below.
Oh, that'd be fun.
If y'all want this to be something different than a bi-monthly video series, you want it to even be once a month, and y'all do not care about me talking at all, or if y'all want more of these conversations, do y'all want me to put this on Spotify and iTunes and make it an actual podcast? Leave a comment below. Leave a like. If you haven't subscribed and you're still listening, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. And
what are you doing still listening to
Yeah,
this?
what are you still doing here? Anyway. I can't talk. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Hit subscribe. New videos coming out every month. Trying to do 2 to 3 videos every month. With this video series, it makes it a little bit easier to post. So if you like film photography, stick around.
Yeah.
Until next time, I will catch you guys later.